It's my great privilege to introduce our friend, the next great Secretary of State of this great state of Georgia, Georganna Sinkfield.
Thank you so very, very much. Starting off, let me say to you that Georgia deserves trusted, experienced, and dedicated leadership. Thank you. We deserve a Secretary of State who will be a voice for all Georgians. For almost 30 years, I have stood up for our families and our children, for what's right versus what's popular, and for moving forward instead of backward. I'm proud of my record of 28 years in the General Assembly. As your state representative, I fought to keep money in the classroom. I created the Office of the Child Advocacy to protect our children. And I served as the watchdog for resources for human services when I chaired the second largest budget for human development. I fought for us inside the Gold Dome and in our communities. I have led the fight to serve all of Georgia. Our next Secretary of State must be willing and able to take the challenges ahead. Voters are being turned away at the polls. Fraud and abuse threaten our economic well-being. Starting a new business often is too hard, too slow, and too costly. I have a vision for Georgia. I have a vision for Georgia, guaranteeing open and honest and fair elections, standing up for victims of fraud, making sure our banks are stable, and growing new business by cutting some of the red tape. These are the responsibilities of the Secretary of State, and let me tell you how I will lead. First, as Secretary of State, I guarantee that elections are open to all qualified voters. We need it, y'all. I will make sure that every vote is counted and that ballots are secure. All Georgians believe that the right to vote belongs to citizens. But the Secretary of State should never be able to deny voting rights to any lawful voter. Georgia will not go back to the old days when voting was a privilege and not a right. We remember that. We remember all the people that have fought and died for us to have the right to vote. And I will oppose any effort to steal the right to vote from our citizens. Over the last 30 years, I've watched elections become nastier. I've seen good men and women forget that they are the representatives of the people. And I also believe that as Secretary of State, I will certainly be against any false advertising and voter intimidation and stealing words and practices from other candidates. All of this must stop. We need to become the leader in doing what's right, not what's easy. And Georgians deserve the security of knowing that their vote counts. We must protect the voters' right to choose. As Secretary of State, I will push for a voter system that allows for accuracy and for common sense. We must strike a balance between convenience and access, between proof and privacy. Georgia has come a long way, but we aren't done yet. I will make it a priority to improve the security of our ballots and the sanctity of our votes. And second, I will end fraud and abuse and promote responsible investment. The Secretary of State is also Georgia's Commissioner of Securities and its Consumer Protection. The Secretary of State is an advocate when it comes to our money and protecting our money. As your Secretary of State, I will ensure that fraudulent investments do not start in Georgia, and I will stand up for victims of fraud and abuse. We need to grow our economy. It is slow, but the Secretary of State office, while it does not create jobs, I believe that it can help to grow jobs by looking and promoting people who are trying to go into business and hire new hires. I want to streamline the licensing, recognizing though that the governor appoints those boards and they're almost autonomous. But I've worked with the legislature for 28 years, and it will be my job and my position to work with them to make the licensing process much easier. I want to be your next Secretary of State. The right to vote must be protected. Our banks must be stable. Starting a business should be a dream, not a nightmare. As your Secretary of State, I will be a leader you can trust. I will use my experience to improve our lives. I will be dedicated to increasing opportunity and access. That is my vision. That is my promise. And on July 20th, choose the Secretary of State who can move Georgia forward. Elect me, Georganna Sinkfield, and I will stand up for your rights.